for turning on your videos and kind of engaging. I think we can keep it pretty informal given kind of the size of the group. But I wanted to get started by having our two couples introduce themselves to us, both kind of on the personal side and on the business side. Jack and Dawn, would you mind kind of getting us started off by saying a little bit about how you met and kind of the personal side of it, and then kind of introducing your business and how and when it was launched.
You want me to start? You start, yeah. Okay, so I'm Dawn Galante, and originally born and raised in Michigan. Moved to California in 1985 and met Jack in the summer of '99. There's got to be a song about that. We met at a good friend's restaurant in San Francisco called TJ's Oyster Bar. It's no longer there, unfortunately. Irvington 7th is where it was. And Jack was in doing some kind of wine dinner of some sort. We were both single at the time. We previously were married, and I have 3 daughters from that first marriage, and then Jack has 2 boys. So we're like the Brady Bunch almost. But we met and we instantly kind of connected. And I remember going home that night thinking, that was weird that he stayed on my mind. There was something about him and all that. And then he did a handwritten note to me, which I still have. I just showed that to you. And so that was the end of it. He wrote me a note. We did very slow dating due to the circumstances, and it's just, history from there.
Yeah, a lot of history from there.
Yeah, proposed to me at the ranch that we have here, which will lead into the business side, and he's my best friend. So there we go.
And the business, I had, my background is I'm longtime Californian, been in the area a long time. My great-grandfather founded the town of Carmel by the Sea here back at the turn of the century. So I've always spent my time between the Bay Area, San Francisco, Marin, and here. Except for, when did we move here permanently? 2011. And then, I commuted down here for business for 17 years, a little bit of a long commute. But we have, my family had purchased a cattle ranch here in Carmel Valley, 700-acre property up in the hills many years ago. And I spent my life growing up there in the summers. Love the cattle business, love agriculture. Then I had about in 1994, earlier in that, in 1983, our family made a decision to plant some grapes on part of the property. So we did that, and then we were selling grapes. And in 1994, I decided, my dad was retiring again, and he said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'll just take over the business. And very soon after that, I decided to build a winery. So I put everything I had into building a winery, subsequently purchased the ranch out from the family. And for 25 years now, I've been building the brand and Galante Family Winery. And subsequently.
Well, yeah, so I get to talk twice.
How unusual.
Yeah, in 2011, when, as Jack mentioned, we moved to Carmel Valley, kind of our dream area to be. I've always worked in nonprofit, and a lot of it extended through not only our children and their friends, I think in the early days it was I'm trying to think of what foundation, but in any case, in the early days, I'd always been working with children at risk. So when we got here, I said, I've got to have more purpose. The last one went off to college, and I kind of threatened to leave the family business. And Jack said, what can we do? And so with his creative mind, we came up with a new label called Dawn's Dream Winery.
Well, more than a new label, a whole new winery.
A whole new winery. So Dawn's Dream, it's not a dream for me to have another winery. We already have that. The dream was to help women and children at risk. And I've done that through money, product, and time, and we'll get into that. So now, going from one winery and working together, we still are a team on all of them, but there's a purpose and a mission in each model. So.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Thank you. We're sticking to it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for getting us started. Colleen and Ryan, could you do the same? Introduce yourselves.
Go ahead, Colleen.
Sure, I'll start. I am an immigrant from Ireland. So I immigrated when I was very young, 7 in I was gonna fudge it there, but I'm not. I'm 43. So in 84, and I first generation everything. My parents were farmers, so we immigrated over with kind of nothing, and then we're the first generation to go off to college. So it just it was a real risk for my parents to take. And my dad, I was just thinking about this. Total side note. Our parents, I never realized it. Our parents are both in business together as entrepreneurs. So I just thought about that today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, so immigrated over, spent most of my time growing up here in the States in the Bay Area, up in Concord, California. And then I spent a lot of time while I was going to college going back and forth to Europe. I studied abroad in London for a couple semesters, came back, graduated from St. Mary's College, did a postgraduate in Manchester, and that's where I started to get into marketing and publicity. Came back from that, and that's when I met Ryan when I was in my mid-20s.
Yeah.
And I met Ryan, and I was just about to go back because I got another job offer, and so I decided to stay. We had only been on like a couple dates, but it was enough. It was enough to make a commitment to stay in the Bay Area and I guess eventually be on my track to becoming an American citizen, because I was a green card holder for that whole time because my parents never decided to do that, and I was so busy growing up, college and what have you. So then I met Ryan, and our paths kind of crossed in and out. I worked at Ziff Davis Media. He worked at PlayStation, and we just seemed to be kind of running in the same fields, but not actually doing the exact same thing. And I've always had a creative background. I work more on brand identity. I've worked on like package design here in California, and then we got married. We got married, and then quickly after we got married, we decided to move to the East Coast for a job opportunity that Ryan had. My job transferred to me. I moved to the New Jersey office, and then I moved into the New York office. While in Jersey, we had we had 3 kids.
3 Jersey girls.
3 Jersey girls. We decided then his time at his job there, he worked for Mars, the food company, was winding down, and he felt like he wanted a shift. So we decided, let's move back to California because we hadn't really lived there as an adult couple. We did that, but we're always, our constant is being kind of constantly changing things up, constantly looking to do something different, something more. And with that, then he had another job opportunity down here in LA 2 years after we had moved back. Mm-hmm. And that brought us down to LA. That job didn't really work out. And then we decided to start Thrill. And Thrill came off kind of our same passion to really change the way communications is done. I'm more of the creative mind, and I really don't like getting bogged down in the fluff and the jargon of spin and PR. And I would say Ryan feels the same way. We really want the cliche for that brand to come to life. And we have a huge passion to really build these personalities of brands and business and interact more with the consumer on a more personal level, and really take an effect, a physical and emotional effect on their daily lives, which is a big aspiration, but that's our direction we're going into. So
she's covered a lot. So I'll just say, so I'm 3rd generation Bay Area, born and raised, and obviously went to UOP and graduated in '98 from the College of the Pacific. Yeah. I studied communications there, and big shout out to Dr. Carol Ann Hackley, who was a big mentor for me during that time, and got me really interested in communications and PR. And over the past 20 years, as Colleen mentioned, I was working with kind of high profile brands doing disruptive communications. How do you stand out? How do you make a story come to life? Yeah. So launching PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3, keeping brands like M&M's and Snickers top of mind, both stateside and globally. And
So I've had this, I love telling a story, love creating that kind of, that thrill, you know, that sudden feeling of excitement, pleasure, hence the name of our company. And combining with Colleen's kind of creative background, it's a nice marriage. Obviously that means a lot of things, but it's a nice marriage in terms of changing the way communications is done. And that's what we do today for the past year and a half. So.
Fantastic. So let me kind of ask a follow-up question, Colleen and Ryan, and then kind of come back to you guys, Jack and Dawn. So for you, this is relatively recent. It's just kind of a year and a half. Take us a little through that, those early conversations about how you guys said you were going to make the plunge into this, and specifically about how you kind of decided what roles you would play, right? I mean, when you kind of start a business, there's a set of business roles, and then you got the personal side where there's the kind of relationship roles. I mean, how did you guys navigate, you know, those things and kind of decide, you know, what role each one of you guys plays?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first off, it's squishy. It was squishy the first year. Yeah, in terms of the roles, because as I think Jack and Don can really, you know, when they started too, you know, all of a sudden I was kind of more of a senior level role in a company, and now I'm super scrappy, from writing up the invoices to giving strategic counsel to, you know, and then, so first off is, it was real squishy the first year. Colleen alluded that we brought in a third party that was a business coach just the last fall, just a little after a year in our business, which was a good opportunity to reflect on what stuck, what didn't, what we liked doing, what we didn't like doing, what the clients grasped onto, where we think we could really add the most value. And part of the friction that we're feeling to get there.
I was going to say, I'll just say that first year, like, and like total transparency, that first year, we thought, like, let's do Thrill as I wanted to do something. I had been home for several years having babies, I feel like. So after my second baby, I decided to stay home with the third. And so for that first year, we, like, it was the kind of a stopgap almost. It was like, okay, well, let's try this. I'll support you, and I'll help you with the creative stuff that you need to get done. And you do all of the communications, be in front of the client, and that would be great. And so then I was more of the thinker of the plans and how the programs would come to life. Well, Ryan comes home from a meeting with one of the executives at Hulu, and he's like, I sold your workshop in, so we have to do that. And so that, I mean, it's all kind of by chance, but then that was a shift for me to, oh gosh, okay, so we're going to be co-founders now, you know, in a very even sense. And then that was a big shift. And then from that shift, it was this struggle of being at home and having all of those responsibilities, and then having a business to run and to be the whole creative arm of that business, while Ryan was more the client-facing strategy communication side of that business. And so then that caused a little bit of tension. And so finally we had to say, you know what, we've split our business 50-50. And so now our roles at home have to be split 50-50. And so we do.
That was a big shift. That was huge, because
it was a very big shift.
Yeah.
And then also I think we started to toy with that, and then we had one foot in, one foot out. And it wasn't until we decided we both had the same vision. We wanted to do this 100%. And I think that's a big milestone for anyone to decide, like, I was interviewing a little bit, he was interviewing a little bit. And so that was a big milestone for us to say, okay, let's put everything into this. And that was scary. And we decided, let's lose all our overhead costs. We sold our house and moved to a rental to support the business. And the minute we decided, I don't know if it's just everything lined up the way it was supposed to be. We had a business coach out to confirm we're a huge believer in getting your vision straight. And we had the same vision, very clear goals on what we wanted to impact in the industry as well as in the world of entrepreneurship. And the minute we decided to do that, right there and then we got 3 new clients right there and then.
Within a week. Yeah. And the right purposeful clients.
Yeah.
So now to kind of summarize that, the roles now, I'm the chief operating officer.
Oh, yeah.
So looking at kind of biz dev and the operations and the finance of the business, where Colin's the chief creative officer. And then I handle all the laundry in the house.
Yep.
You know, with 4 kids, that was important, and that got squishy, where she does the meal planning.
Yeah.
Because that affected the business, right? Because there's, you know, everything's raw, you know, and you're like, well, who's doing the meal tonight?
We even split the house in half. He cleans upstairs, I clean downstairs. It's just, you have to, right? Because with the 4 kids and still they're very needy, you know, you need to have that balance and not have to worry about it.
Yeah.
So it really helped us accelerate our business. So
super interesting. And that's, you know, just in, you know, a year and a half. Don and Jack, you guys have a longer track record. So just in 18 months, these guys have pivoted a couple of times and had to adjust, not just on the business side, but on the family side in terms of roles and stuff. You know, with the longer perspective, how have you guys worked out that kind of roles and relationships on both sides of that divide?
I go ahead. You know, with the kids, it's easy. You just threaten them, and it pretty much works. But no,
we split.
We do, yeah. Well, I think that early on, you know, when Dawn and I met, I had already started the winery. So the winery was about 5 years old, and I was just killing myself driving back and forth, of course, to the Carmel to San Mill Valley, 3 hours each way, and you know, which I did for 17 years, but we really kind of, both of us had the same agenda in that we always put our kids first, and so both of us had that already, that mentality, and so it was pretty easy when we combined them. I mean, it was chaotic. They were 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 years old, but Brady Bunch. But it was, but we immediately took into, you know, Dawn kind of organized a lot. I mean, and she was like doing the household stuff, running a lot of the household stuff. I was doing all the cooking because I love to cook. I did a cooking show and stuff. Way better than and so I still do all the cooking and you know, or not all, but a lot of it.
He does it all. I let him too.
and then you know, it just kind of, you just found what each person was really stronger at and more willing to do, but that didn't mean you didn't jump in and lend a hand. I mean, if something got crazy, you just do it. I mean, you kind of have to.
You do something, you figure out and give space to the other person and really recognize and honor of what they do well. Mm-hmm. So what we did at home early, and I heard you, Colleen, because you talked a little bit about this, splitting the duties, and we did go through all that growing pains. Jack was traveling a lot. Even when his kids would come from their moms to our house, sometimes they were just with me if he had to be gone several days. So there was this shift in duties where we went through all of that. So what sounds like what you guys are explaining is right on target. Minus we didn't get the coach.
No.
But, you know, I will say that the way we started out in the household and attacking how we work together really transcended into our job titles, just like you all. So I'm a CFO and I'm in charge of operations, detail orientated, you know, a lot of order, and Jack is creative and, you know, marketing. I mean, the guy can come up with the most brilliant ideas where I'm, you know, so we really honed those skills early on.
And I'm doing a lot of the production up at the ranch, cattle work, winery work, vineyard work, you know, a lot of that. And like Don said too, in the early days when we were in the distributor model, I mean, I was traveling 100, 150 days a year. So it was, you know, organizing that schedule around when we had the kids, when we didn't have the kids, you know, and then of course, when they got older, it was a lot easier. But it was chaotic. Really.
And now the kids are coming back.
Oh yeah.
So we have our first granddaughter, a second granddaughter on the way, and we watch Eliza Jane, which I have a wine named after, every Tuesday. She comes to Nana and Bavo. So we're working full time. So I have to really, it takes all I have to be like, okay, no emails, no computers. I'm going to focus on a almost 2-year-old. It's
we
tough.
love it.
We love it, but it's tough.
Yeah, but it did change that into the roles of the winery. It's the same thing. It was just like, you know, Dawn, you know, her forte was in finance and and all that. Sure, I can do it, and I've done it in building the business, but it's not something, you know, I needed to focus my time on making the best products, getting out there and selling and marketing. And, you know, this is not an easy business to be in. And then not only the winemaking, but we have a, you know, 700-acre ranch and vineyards and cattle business. And, you know, it's a 7-day-a-week, you know, 14, 15, 16-hour day job, period.
Yeah, I do a lot of paper pushing.
Yeah.
So I'm, you know, constant. I handle all of the finances, including at home for the most part.
Yeah.
And
I don't even know if we have any money.
at this point, it's going out pretty quick if we don't get to open soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the one thing I will say too is that, you know, it hasn't always been easy, because I don't want to make it sound like it's been, you know, because you guys were vulnerable in sharing, Ryan and Colleen, but there has been some, I want to say territory kind of, you know, where we had to really sit down and talk and arguments, but you know, marriages have that anyways. That's how you grow and you communicate. And so we've had to work through a lot of that. It's not always been easy.
Nothing's ever always easy.
No,
Nothing's ever always easy. That's why we have wine. It makes it a lot easier.
I don't recommend it for everyone.
That was actually, you know, Dawn, that was actually exactly where I was going to go, because both couples mention very quickly, you know, kind of these tensions that arise. And, you know, you're probably fooling yourself if you think tensions aren't going to arise, right? Because, you know, number one, the business itself is changing and growing, and you guys are figuring out the hats. And then on the personal side, you know, life is changing as kids grow up and all that stuff. So you're going to have these friction points. And I, you know, tell students who are thinking about kind of this kind of thing, like, you know, this is great, but there's this kind of playing with fire, because you're risking both your business life and your family life, and you really need to know how to handle these points of tension. So what have you guys learned? Like, how do you guys have ways of, you know, what have you learned from the tensions? Do you have ways of dealing with it? Dawn and Jack, and then I can see Colleen's laughing already. I mean,
I just whispered, I said, I'll take this one.
Like, I'll take it.
I don't mean just to go into family therapy, but this is business too, right? This is kind of.
Yeah, I have a great, without going through all the details, the best way for Jack and I to communicate about a hot subject is through email, believe it or not.
Oh, interesting.
So, I mean, in terms of once, if it's an area that's touchy, and you don't want to have the facial expressions and the energy that couples can pick up on each other. The email, it gives him a chance to process what I'm saying, and then he'll do the same with me. And again, those are areas that we know are probably tougher for us to sit face to face. Maybe they're unresolved in some way, or they're just something we have to agree to disagree about our personality structures. And like you said, Professor, too, is not letting it get in a damaged mode of our relationship. And we're aware when that's happening.
And I think you gotta, basically, you always gotta come back, and you always gotta get yourself coming back. You know, I can be pretty forceful. Dawn can be pretty forceful. And, you know, but you can't be successful in business if you're not. So when you're working together and we have 4 businesses, so making them all successful, it's not the easiest thing to also come back home and just kind of give in, you know. So it's a change. So, you know, I think that just having a real great respect for each other as human beings and as friends, and knowing the strength of the other person, you might get hot-headed once in a while, but, you know, you always come back to it, and just, even if you disagree, that's okay.
Well, we're all conditioned, right, from our early upbringings, no matter what our journey's been culturally. And so we have triggers, and we don't know what they are. We know about it ourselves, but our spouses do. And so, it can get tricky. And I'll just give you one example of how we broke through kind of the stressful time, as all of you are dealing with. Imagine everybody on this call is dealing with how to run their businesses, their family, or be in their employment. Is we came home last night, I had the music going as loud as it could on the Sonos. Jack made most of the dinner, but we communicated, we laughed. You know, we did a few things around the house together. We didn't talk about business, and we watched a show. And then tonight the plan is we're going to go to town and we're going to have dinner because one of our friends got to open up. And, you know, so you have to force yourself to not talk about the work, and that's hard.
Yeah, especially in the hospitality business, because we're always,
it's all tied together.
We're always working.
Yeah.
Pauline and Ryan, what, you know, how do you guys do?
We definitely have not mastered not talking about work.
Yeah, that's
100%.
Yeah. We weave it in. You know, the thing is, you know, what's real precious, especially during COVID right now, is time. And so there's a lot more emphasis on how we divide and conquer and manage the kids.
Yeah.
So anytime we have, we're talking. And because we're, you know, first and foremost, we're so passionate about this, working together and what we can do to grow our business. We love what we do. And so, you know, we also,
we love it so much, like going on a client meeting. I said this to Ryan the other night because it absolutely lights me up. Going on a client meeting feels like going on a date. Like I get so excited to go out and be with him in business. It's so fun. I mean, because we don't go on that many dates.
No. And so I think, you know, I mean, I'll be very candid. I mean, we've had some of the most intense conversations ever in our relationship since we started the business. Like really seeing kind of this other side where I'm like, oh my gosh. And what was really powerful, and it was kind of after the coach, you know, what was really powerful that she acknowledged, she's like, you know, you're in a valley right now, which, you know, I think with entrepreneurs, there's peaks and valleys, and you guys are in a valley right now. We're only a year and a half in. It's things, I feel like we're in a really good stride at this point, but at the end of last year, we were in a valley, and it really tested us. It really, on all levels. And, you know, a lot of maybe where that tension or anger was coming out of, it wasn't so much towards each other. It was because of the fear and uncertainty. And that once we kind of found that, there was actually a sense of comfort. I'm like, oh, and now when we get maybe a little short with each other, it's mostly because of that fear and uncertainty as we're charting this path. As you mentioned, there's no real playbook, you know, so that's why we're always keen to get any pearls of wisdom. But, you know, a lot of that fear and uncertainty is like how you master that, right? And obviously we're all going through that now. Entrepreneurs are not entrepreneurs. There's a lot of uncertainty. And so it's, how do you embrace that and kind of just have that perspective? And that's been really powerful for us in knowing that.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, it's so personal, right? It's, you're putting yourself out there. Like you can't separate the work from your personality, because part of the reason we work with certain people, or part of the reason they invite us in, is because of who we are, you know, because they could get another small team to maybe work with them, but part of it's who we are and our perspective on the things that we, you know, that their issues and what creative we bring to the table is. And so that is, we're still dealing with kind of, oh my gosh, what if they don't like it? It's hard not to take stuff like very personable and take it to heart. But I mean, as long as we put our best foot forward, but there's a lot of, I mean, that's our biggest hurdle to get over, is this uncertainty, because we're still like, it's going so well right now, but I feel like we can never let up, you know? We're so young. We're so, or not young, but young entrepreneurs. I mean, we're not young.
And I think it's a huge selling factor for us in Couplepreneurs. Is things move really quick. It's super raw. So I've built up a real tough skin, and it's our relationship to a whole nother level that I've had to kind of pivot and grow to. But I think we move so fast, and that's a big selling proposition of the service we provide. People that work with us, it's super authentic. It's super fast. You know, working in big companies, they invest a lot of money in bringing in coaches and trying to work through, you know, what's festering, and, you know, there's a lot of niceties, and that can take months to like try to get a team really well oiled. And I think that's because of that. That's a huge benefit to us, but also any client that works with us, because not everything moves really fast.
So Chris mentions, we've got a couple of questions in the chat area, and I encourage other folks too, if you're kind of interested in getting in the conversation, I'll take a little pause after folks respond and just chime in or put something in the chat about kind of how did you have kind of conversations about to make sure that the vision was clear to yourself and to each other. You already talked about both of you guys talked about the importance of communication and conversations. And right, there's this temptation when things aren't going well or things are difficult to kind of kick the can down the road with the difficult conversations. How do you guys make sure that you have those, or ways in which you kind of communicate around that, Colleen and Ryan? I know, Dawn and Jack mentioned email, which is kind of fascinating, right? That's a way to get it out there, and it's great. Yeah. How do you guys do that?
Well, just on the vision, and I mean, because this is that kind of, we're in the communications business. So the vision, we felt so strong about our vision and our values, and we wrote them out. So we know our North Star, we know where we're heading towards. And so when issues come up, I guess in the business side of it, we make sure, is it aligning with our vision, or are we maybe kind of trying to appease the client and just say, take them down what they want to go down, in terms of the path.
We had for us, that first year, we threw a lot at the wall.
Yeah.
We were fortunate to work with a lot of different kind of people and brands and industries and see what we like and what we don't like, and also reflect on our values. So part of that exercise was really being aligned. What are those values that are really important to us, and making sure that anybody we engage with are exhibiting those. And we've come up with some processes to sift that out before we engage. And that's been huge for us. And also being really clear on our swim lanes as a business, like what do we do and what do we not do as well. And that's been really helpful to
which means saying no sometimes, but as a new business, I think a lot of people have the tendency to say yes, yes, yes.
Which we did the first year.
We did. And
you learn a lot.
We worked with people that weren't thrilling us, but so with that, we now can look at those requests and say, you know what, and we just did recently, that's not our swim lane. We don't do that, so let's just thank you, but we pass. And I mean, it's risky to pass, on work, but we know where we want to focus our energy on. So.
And we know how it'll carry through to our personal life.
Because we have to make sure we're both interested too. And I think that's something that makes the work shine, is if it's only maybe a passion of his, then it makes it really hard for me to get creative around it. And if it's only a passion of mine, then he can't develop the communication strategy for it. So, it has to be something that.
And those filters are so important, more as a couple doing business, because any decision we make has such a huge ripple effect to everything. So, if I decide to bring in this new business, and if she's not feeling it, I'm going to hear about it. It's going to carry over my personal life, like in the weirdest moments, like maybe we're out with our daughter at something and I'm like reminding them, like, oh my gosh, like it doesn't stop. So, you can't, it's always on. So those filters are huge for a lot of reasons. So.
Well,
you already started to get at some of this. I mean, Dawn, you mentioned, in your case, your name is literally on, one of the businesses, Dawn's Dream Winery. I mean, how did you guys talk through either that business or any one of your businesses in terms of, what Colleen and Ryan were talking about with the vision and what you guys do and don't do, and how you kind of agree on how to execute on that vision?
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because Colleen, you brought up, both of you did, about having that passion. And obviously Jack was in the wine industry before. We didn't make a lot of wine in Michigan when I was growing up. So, it's definitely, I kind of came into work and learned the whole wine industry through Galante Family Winery. And what I brought was my expertise of the financial analysis and kind of budgeting and just tracking. And it started out originally doing that for his company. And, and as time evolved, Colleen and Ryan, you're correct. If my passion was always just supporting his dream, that's where I needed to be fed, right? The kids kept me busy. Colleen, you alluded to that, being home with them. You're going to support. I supported. And then my fire started burning. Then it was like, okay, I'm going to start. And that's how Dawn's Dream came about. What Jack was really helpful in is I wouldn't know what I know about the wine industry, which is so unique in itself. I mean, my family was a lot of automotive industry, being from out of the Detroit area, which is also a unique industry. The wine industry is like nothing you could ever wrap your head around. And so, you know, he's been a teacher, which we all know Jack actually does like to teach.
I taught for a while.
He's really good. And so I had to be willing to listen and take that, whether he's teaching me skiing for the first time or teaching me about pitching wine, you know, out on the road. So I really learned a lot of that part of the business, and then just brought in my heart with it. And so now we're both a little more fulfilled and balanced within the wine industry, because I have mine and he has his.
And remember, we also, we've been doing this for a long time, 25 years in wine and 40 years growing grapes. So it's a long time. The industry is crazy. It's an amazing industry. It is a hospitality industry. You're on 24/7.
Everywhere you go.
Yeah, I mean, we lead wine trips and wine cruises all over the world all the time. You know, we've been to God knows how many 40 countries, and, you know, a lot of stuff. So but we also made some major changes in our business, and it's scary because, like, gosh, I think it was 2008 or 9 or 7, I don't know, somewhere. But I think it was 9. We really decided that the distributor model for small wineries didn't work anymore. I was traveling 150 days a year in 15 countries. 5 countries, 15 states, distributing wine, selling out everything I made, top restaurants all over the world, but never making a dime. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, it was just so difficult for small wineries. And even though the wines were all being sold and purchased, and it just was too hard to run because of the discounting and all of that. And so we made a decision, hey, we're stopping that. I got rid of everything.
It was actually after Don's Dream started, because
it was a little before that.
Yeah, I was direct to consumer, which
well, no, it was before that. It was mine, but then when you did, you started fully on distribution.
I only did.
But we changed. We built the first tasting room in Carmel. Never had a tasting room before. Then we both encouraged a lot of friends to build their wineries there, put their tasting rooms in Carmel. Dawn started hers there. Now we've been picked as one of the top 10 tasting destinations in the world. You know, we're major on the map. We're very involved politically in it. You know, so but it was a decision to change from one entire model economically to a completely different model economically, with a whole different way of communicating to clients, to communicating to customer, a whole different customer base, and it was very successful. But it doesn't. That was a risk. Let me tell you, that was a risk when you tell your 15 distributors, sorry, we're not dealing with you anymore. So you know, it was a lot of changes, a lot of difficulties.
Well, one thing that both of you guys have in common is, you know, the storytelling around this. I mean, and the storytelling intersects the personal life, and it sounds like in both cases, right? In your case, you know, Jack and Dawn, I mean, you're telling the story of Carmel and Carmel wine, it sounds like. Can you tell us, you know, how you've, especially around that transition, right? That's a transition to a direct relationship with your kind of, you know, your consumers and so forth. You know, how did you go about developing that relationship and telling your story? And then would love to punt it back over to Colleen and Ryan for the same question.
Well, I can start that. I love dealing with people. I mean, I just enjoy that. I get that from my dad, who was he owned a women's wear store. He introduced Italian fashions into California. And, you know, very vibrant guy, and I just love dealing with the customer and people, and I'm very, very, very passionate about the product. I love making something that people enjoy. That's the one thing that's really great about the wine industry, is I'm not making a shirt or a watch or somebody needs a computer. I'm making something somebody doesn't have to have, but they really love. So you're 99% of the time you're dealing with really great people. And great. That I get a lot of encouragement from that. So I think getting to behind the bar, behind the tasting room bar, the events up at the winery, we ran a full concert series. We've had Aaron Neville and Eddie Money and Pablo Cruz, and everybody comes up to the ranch. All of that stuff it was just like, I don't know, magnetism. I just energizer. I feel like the Energizer Bunny when that stuff's going on. It's crazy, but I like it. And so, and that with the trips, the cooking show, it's just something I did, and I loved it. And I think it was a natural fit. I wouldn't do it if I didn't like it. I don't do things I don't like to do unless I really, really have to. So I just, that's the way it is. And I think that when you project, and I think Ryan and Colleen, you are right on this one as well. When you are honest about appreciating your customer, they are honest and they are appreciative of you. And so
they trust us as a dual couple.
And during this time of the COVID thing and all, I mean, our customers are calling us. What can we do? We want to support you. I'm not always calling them. They're calling us and saying, what can we do to help you? Yeah. And
they're buying us gifts.
They're buying us, sending us gifts from places. Hey, I thought of you. I get artwork from somebody. I thought of you on this one, and how are you doing? We're getting calls from all over the nation. How are you guys doing out there? So I think that they genuinely feel that. And so our customers are part of our family. I mean, it's so crazy how many times, we meet thousands and thousands of people, and the people call our office all the time. Oh, I'm Jack's best friend. I don't even know who they are. But it's because
he's way more that way than I am. I would say Jack is way more of an extrovert. I call him the mini mayor. He has a mini mayor title.
I do see Jeff over here and Ann, so they're on our Zoom there. Yeah, they drank a lot of wine.
So for me, I'm way more of an introvert by heart. I require, my rebuilding time is reading a good book solo. So it's been interesting for us to carve out, when we lead a wine cruise, we could be looking at the most beautiful view, about to eat a gorgeous lunch, and someone will sit directly in front of us and say, oh, I've been thinking about starting a vineyard and I just want to go, but we're on a business trip. So, okay, Jack's going to spend 40 minutes telling you about a vineyard, and I'll just be over here. So we have moments like that, and he always knows my body language. But in this industry, you guys know, in any industry, all of you all have careers, is that you do have to think about that customer first, and when you're on, you have to do it.
Colleen, Ryan? Yeah.
Well, I was just going to comment on, it's so, I think you guys mentioned it. It's like the two personalities coming together that makes it so special when we are with a client. And definitely Ryan is the more buttoned up professional, very friendly, and just very sympathetic to, or empathetic, I guess, empathetic to the client's needs, where I get so excited about the ideas we have and what's going on. I guess being the creative arm of it, I'm allowed to be a little bit louder, a little bit brasher, but it's my personality too. So he definitely, there's moments where I'm like, you got to tell this person to, that there aren't, we work with other agencies because we are a small group. So we have sister agencies that we bring in for big events and things like that. So I'm like, you gotta go have a heart to heart, because if I were on the phone, I would just say black and white. There's no middle ground or I guess easiness to me. And so Ryan is, you have to have both personalities in the package, I guess I'm saying, but there's definitely, my limits, and I know his limits. So,
yeah, we just started a video series on our Instagram called Our First Draft, and we've done 8 episodes where every week we just kind of share more of what we're going through, because a year and a half in, a lot of books that you get are usually people that are reflecting back. So we're like, let's just capture this and kind of journal our journey. And last week we talked about just you being you. And so she mentioned the empathy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And that's a blessing and a curse for me, in terms of, I can feel a lot in a room. It's a blessing where I can kind of I feel I can bring out the best in people and teams. But as doing business with my wife, I feel a lot with her. And sometimes I kind of tend to put my own, feelings aside and try to, change my ways to try to cater to that. And that's backfired on me the past 2 weeks. She said, you got to stop worrying about me. And so it's like,
I'm
learning learn about that kind of how I balance that empathy too.
Yeah.
As well.
He needs a reminder to come 100% Ryan to the table and not try to be a mix of Ryan Colleen to the table. I'm like, you do you and I'll do me.
Yeah.
Well, we've got about 8-10 minutes left. I want to make sure that folks have a chance to ask questions for others who are here. Anybody want to ask these guys anything that I haven't already sort of asked them about? I know there's one question in the chat room, so I can ask that. But Candy, were you about to ask a question? I don't want to cut you off.
No, I'm good.
Okay, sounds good. Well, Anne asks about sort of space, literally physical space, right? I mean, when you're kind of moving around all day and then all evening, and all your employees and your rest of the family are involved, that can kind of be a little claustrophobic. And she says that when, her spouse has a dental practice, and that sort of, being in the same space, difficult sometimes for the employees kind of to have all of that. And so she started working from home. How do you guys organize space and time, whether or not on the personal side or on the professional side to kind of have that room both for each other to have individual space, but also others in terms of the relationship with others? Because, Copreneurs aren't a normal business relationship, and everybody around you also knows that, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's funny, it's exciting being around my wife, and working, but also I'm excited to kind of have my own, we're excited to kind of have our own space too, you know? So it's an interesting dynamic, right? When you're around each other all the time. And, before that we used, you talk about going on trips and stuff, but it's a different dynamic how we use our time together.
I mean, we do sit in separate areas of the house, for the majority of the day. Ryan will sit upstairs, I'll sit downstairs.
Yep.
This is a unique time because we have the 4 kids home doing Zooms constantly, and our kindergartner needs 110% attention to get through the day. But so I manage that during the day. Ryan takes client calls, and then I work at night, which is not sustainable, but that's the way we've managed to do it.
Right now,
in terms of usual routines before this lockdown kind of happened, we would take our time. I love to be outside. I love to walk and run and do all that. So I take an hour each day to either walk or do something outside. Ryan takes time to go bike riding on his own. We do, sometimes in the evenings, we have different hobbies that really feed us. So, I try to work on my creativity, and I do that by myself, after the kids go to bed, and I work on that. I think, it's funny though. I mean, we do get the comment like, how do you do it? How do you work with your spouse? I could never work with my husband. But the weird thing is, and it's not perfect. We do argue, we do fight, but when he is out of town, we spend, or if he goes to the store, or like you used to go to the gym, we're on the phone to each other. Like we haven't had enough time together.
Yeah, it is funny. I made that comment. I said, oh my God, I talked to you 7 times today, and I was just away for a day. But it's just funny. Yeah.
I don't know.
So.
But we're enjoying it. We're enjoying it, and I think
we're still here.
The benefits outweigh the uncomfortable moments. Us being flexible, we have kids in the acting industry, so they need a lot of like auditions and self-tapes and all that stuff that goes with that. So we're able to. Yeah,
she's actually, I give a lot of props for all moms out there during COVID, because it's just like another 40% of stuff has been added, you know, because I think just a lot of kids default to the mom. So she, you know, it's just being most 85% of the time playing kindergarten teacher now, you know, for, you know, 60% of the day, then running a business. And then she also, it skews more to her because it's our two daughters. They're aspiring actors and they're auditioning. So she's also playing mommy manager with the agent and weaving that in. So that's a whole other.
But it's busy. I wouldn't have it any other way. That's why, you know, we like to.
Where's the light there?
Yeah, we like to. It is. We like to be busy. You know, and I feel like it's what kind of drives us. You know, so yeah, no, we're lucky. I think too. Part of it's to do with luck. You know, he found me, and I said yes.
Don and Jack, how do you guys manage that sort of personal space and kind of for yourselves and your employees?
Well, mainly I'm a.
He goes left and I go right.
Yeah, I'm up at the ranch all the time. I get out and do that. You know, I'm running around all day long doing different things because of many facets to the business, and a lot of outdoor work, a lot of winery work, of course, a lot of office work too. And Dawn's here usually, or goes to the office. You know, but we're the same. We just love doing stuff together. So when we go out and we just like being together, and seems to work. When you're right, you know, when you're not together, you're usually calling each other anyway. So
he calls me and says, "I'm at the store. What do you want for dinner?"
What do you want for dinner? You know, and then she goes, "I don't know." And I go, "You got to tell me because I'm running out of ideas here." So, you know, but it's a lot of, you know, it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun.
Well, and for me, the employee side, because we do have a team of employees, which I pretty much manage the front of the house of our business, the operation. So with that being said, I have kind of a routine and a flow. We're one of the businesses that falls under essential business. So we can actually be open.
Not the tasting room.
Not the tasting room, but our office. So our staff is in, we're shipping wine. And so I have 2 staff members. One's there 5 days a week. The other comes in 3 days a week. And so I go in, I find that I really don't have a workspace per se. And I do need to get that eventually. I'm really realizing that today. I can't get a lot of work done when I'm at the office. I'm there for them. I'm saying, how are you doing? Do you need anything? I'm checking in, I'm signing checks, I'm listening to them. And then I'm coming home. And if I really want to get my work done, I have to sit quietly. And that even means like you guys, one's upstairs, one, whatever. Yeah. And, you know, and then we just meet up later, but it's the
normal circumstances, not the COVID time. You know, we have a bunch of employees, and we have both agricultural workers. We want work crews sometimes. And I kind of handle the ag stuff and the winery stuff. And then Dawn kind of handles all the tasting room and the office and the administrative, and because we have 2 tasting rooms going, you know, so they're naturally, we talk about them, but there's a different management thing in that. So
he knows that that's being done on my side. And I know his is
don't really question it. I mean, sometimes Don will say, "Hey, can the guys do this?" and I'll schedule it or whatever. But it works out.
And we do have mindful boundaries, I would say, because I don't know that we've talked about that yet. There are boundaries that when I'm in charge of a certain area of the company. You know, especially if it means spending money, moving money, doing something significant, Jack will say, you know, hey, I'm going to do this, or I need to get a new this. And we talk about it. Yeah. And the same with me, if I need something to be done up there, or even in my wine portfolio, you know, he and I will chat about it. So we're mindful when we do cross over into each other's boundaries, we usually will let each other know.
Oh yeah.
There usually is some.
Yeah, have to. Well, guys, we are at the hour. This has been so fantastic. I've learned a ton, and I teach this stuff, and I hope others will kind of, you know, re-listen to this. I guess we're recording it. If we want to continue to follow your businesses and your stories, what's the best way to do so? Maybe kind of Colleen and Ryan, is there a way to kind of keep track of how you guys are doing and so forth and follow your story?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So We're across all the social channels, but particularly Instagram, which is at Thrill PR.
What is it?
Oh, our personal, yeah. So I would say, yeah, we're kind of for this, yeah, Ryan Bowling, Ryan J. Bowling and Colleen Bowling.
Colleen A. Bowling.
Colleen A. Bowling.
Yeah,
yes.
Colleen Bowling was taken.
Yes, so
I'll be on social media with you guys.
Great. If you wouldn't mind putting that in the chat.
Yeah, the chat notes.
We
Yeah.
have it.
I don't tweet, so I don't know much about that.
I do a lot of the social media stuff.
Yeah, and the events you guys have, Jack and Dawn. How would we find? I mean, I want to come to a couple of your events. How do I find out about that?
Pretty easy. You know, the main thing is that we have both, of course, websites that are great, DawnStreamWinery.com and GalanteVineyards.com.
I'll type it in.
We'll type it in, but also, you know, we're on Instagram. Dawn has all that stuff. I'm not big social media, but we do Facebooks and all that. The best thing is get on our website, just throw your email in there, and you're going to get all sorts of fun stuff about, you know, events that we do here in Carmel, and I travel a lot. You know, I'll go to different states all the time, doing wine dinner, doing events. We lead wine cruises all over the world. We do a
fishing trip in Alaska that we
Alaska
just
right now.
had
We're
to
supposed to be heading
cancel.
there. We had to cancel this year, our fishing trip, private island. But we do, you know, all sorts of different fun things. I go to a lot of our customers just call me and say, hey, I want to do a dinner party, and I fly out and do a wine deal for their dinner party and bring a slideshow or whatever. So we do a lot of that, and yeah, we have a lot of things that we do. So you know, we'd love to have you guys just come down and visit. You know, when things open up, we have a great studio apartment in Carmel right over our tasting room that our customers use a lot. We have. You know, so it's a great place to visit, of course, Carmel.
Fantastic.
I just put in our website on the chat, but we have a big influence on Instagram primarily and Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And we're posting a lot. So there's some funny stuff. And actually, my gal lives in North Carolina that manages our social media.
Oh, yeah.
She moved away on us, and I kept her on because she's so good. So.
Oh, that's great.
Well, thank you guys tremendously for the time. This has been fantastic, and really appreciate it, and for opening up and sharing both kind of the tough times as well as the kind of glorious times, and appreciate it. And
next time I see you, I want everybody to have a glass of wine in front of them.
Yeah,
exactly.
Thank you,
There we go.
Professor.
I'm going to turn it over to Chris to kind of just kind of wrap it up on behalf of the Alumni Association.
Yeah, exactly. So just on behalf of the Alumni Association, just as Professor said, thank you so much, Jack and Dawn and Colleen and Ryan, and thank you so much, Professor Wadhwani, for helping kind of do this. As you already said, I learned a lot. This has really been awesome. If anyone wants to watch this again and kind of take out some little hints and tricks, there's lots of good information in this. PacificAlumni.org/TigersTogether. I'll type that in the chat as well. And on that one, we will also post how you can find and follow our guests today. So thank you again so much, everyone. And special thanks from Marche. I know she was the one that got in contact with everyone. So thank you, Marche Pratt, for getting in contact. And she said, thank you very much for everyone for being on here. So thank you so much, and we look forward to doing something again. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris and Professor.